Welcome to the Dennett Podcast. I'm Todd Pearson, and if you listen really close, get a little closer to your speakers or push those earbuds a little further into your ear holes, you can hear his impending arrival like a freight train crossing the lonesome landscape. You know him as quite possibly the most interesting man in the world, my partner in crime, Wes Brown.
Todd, how you doing, my friend? Oh my God, it's a freight train coming right after you from South Dakota. Hey, I've been watching a lot of political ads from Kristi Noem. Man, I didn't know this, but we're the #1 economy in the country, according to Kristi Noem. I found out we're really 30. So you know what? Political integrity means shit here, but that's all right. That's probably normal anyway, everywhere. But how you doing?
Good. I didn't think you were going to take it in a political direction right from the get-go, but hey.
Hey, I got to always include Kristi. I want her to keep in the mix of things. I
think you have a crush on
I do.
Kristi Noem.
Well, she is very attractive. I'll give her that. And she's tall. And she dresses like a cowboy. So cowgirl. Cowwoman.
Anyway, you've been well?
I've been really well. Yeah. How about you?
Good.
You're over the COVID.
What's that?
You're over the COVID. I
am over the COVID by a month and a half or so. And
has it been that long ago? Seems like yesterday.
Well, I just spent a couple days down the San Luis Valley, which I always love, and had a phenomenal time down there. And
so picture your tent, bright green tent right by stream.
That was a brand new tent that I bought, backpacking tent I bought before COVID, and I had not used it yet.
What kind of tent you get?
It's a Marmot.
This episode brought to you by Marmot.
There you go.
What'd you say? You got it what?
I got it off eBay.
Off eBay. Okay.
I'm an eBay guy, you know. I had a great time camping. I had not camped since January of 2020, so I was overdue. And I had this beautiful spot down there. Thanks to
nice.
Thanks to a couple friends of mine that hooked me up. So yeah. Nice time. Got the location scout for this project that I'm working on, and it was very relaxing.
Did you find some cool spots for your photographs?
I did.
Portraits?
Good. I had 3 photographs to do down in the San Luis Valley and got them all sussed out. So I think I'm ready to rock and roll. Now I just need to get them on the schedule.
Yeah, that's a beautiful area. I like it.
And then I hauled ass back to Denver. And
you did?
Yeah, did it in not under 3 hours, but a little over 3 hours from San Luis, the town of San Luis to my house. Jumped in the shower, and then I went to Boulder and saw that blues artist. Samantha Fish.
Not to be confused with Samantha Fox.
No, that's a blast from the past, from the 80s. Samantha Fish, highly recommend if you have the opportunity to see her. She's got the whole thing. She's got stage presence. She is a phenomenal guitarist, and I call her a blues artist, but it's blues based rock and roll, and it's actually verges on punk at certain times in her set, and phenomenal voice. So
nice.
Yeah, I highly suggest if you have the opportunity to see her, definitely do it. You know what else I saw? I was gonna say this. 2 other things that I saw this week that I thought were like fantastic. If you haven't seen the George Carlin, new George Carlin documentary, if you're a fan of George Carlin, I highly suggest that. It's very interesting. It talks about his whole career and how he got his start and how he, the trials and tribulations that he went through and how he reinvented himself a couple times. Really entertaining. And then last night, I don't know if you're a fan or not, but I watched the Norm Macdonald special.
Oh, yeah.
Are you a fan of Norm Macdonald?
Yeah, I like Norm. I like George a little better. But Norm Macdonald's cool.
I would say George Carlin is probably my favorite all-time comic. I like what he was all about.
I told you my connection to George Carlin, right?
No. What's your George Carlin?
He went to high school with my former mother-in-law.
Really?
Yeah. So grew up in the same community.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. But anyway,
6 degrees
I never got
separation.
to meet him though. I didn't get to meet him though. That sucked. Anyway.
But the Norm Macdonald special, if you're a fan of Norm Macdonald, and he's not everybody's cup of tea because he's, very dry. sense of humor. I highly suggest it. And at the end, they have all these comics sit around and kind of talk about what they just saw and their interaction with him. I didn't realize he was such a big gambler.
No, I didn't either.
Yeah. Like kind of gambling addict, it sounds like. Adam Sandler was telling a story about when they were on SNL, going into his refrigerator. He asked if he could get a soda, and he opened it up, and there's like $25,000 worth of poker chips or chips from the casino in his refrigerator. And he's like, what the hell is going on here? And he's like, well, if I'm going to get robbed, he brought him home because he wanted to consult with his tax advisor to see if there was a way to get around paying taxes on it. So he stashed him. He stashed him in the refrigerator so that if you got broken into or robbed, that would be the last place that you'd look.
Unless you're thirsty while you're stealing him.
And he was a really well-read guy, which I didn't realize. Yeah. He kind of plays this kind of, simpleton, right. But it's all shtick. He was like, he'd read like 5 books at a time.
Oh my God.
Everything from Russian literature to Mark Twain, who I guess he really loved. And then, towards the latter part of his life, probably, when he was starting to deal with his cancer, started reading more about God and the Bible and that sort of thing. So that was really, really kind of intriguing.
So where can people watch that?
That was on Netflix, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how about the George Carlin one?
I knew you were going to ask me this. And
that's all right.
I got all these damn channels and I don't have control over any of it. I just sit down on the couch and I tell my wife, hey, I saw this thing on the internets, and I'd like to watch it. So where do I need to go? And then she like pulls up all the menus and finds what I need to. I'm getting there. I'm that old man. And then I have to grab the remote away from her because she has it down so low.
Oh, that you can't hear it because
I can't hear it. Yeah. Who listens at volume like 9?
That's right. I get to watch
like
TV
a whisper.
I get to watch TV when my wife goes to bed too. What's up with that? I don't know. We've lost our power.
I don't know what to tell you, man. Anyway. All right. You want to talk some art?
Let's talk some art.
Let's talk some art. Just a quick reminder, don't forget to follow us on social media on our Instagram at Tenet Podcast, our Tenet page on Facebook, and of course, our website, tenetpodcast.com, where you can access both our current and past episodes. All right, on to the art. Are you buckled up, Wes Brown?
I am. And I'm sitting in the upright position with my tray fully closed.
Are you ready to flail your arms with wild abandon? Like one of those guys at the car dealership?
All right, let's do it.
All right. You ready to feast your eyeballs on some spectacular art? Our guest this week is someone who has been on our radar for quite some time. His art is absolutely out of this world. He's a painter, filmmaker, and musician from Denver, Colorado. Welcome to the program, Vincent Cheap. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you taking time out of your evening away from work and chatting with us.
Absolutely.
Before we get started, I want to direct everyone to your website. This website is one that has both your work and your twin brother's work, Charly.
Yes.
It's walkoffhot.com, all one word, walkoffhot. And you can find Vincent on Instagram at Vincent Cheap. I got all the links that you sent me and, found a lot of stuff on the internet to watch and read. It appears to me that, you've really lived a really interesting life.
Yeah, I have. I'm very fortunate to have many adventures. Well worth it.
Do you think about that very often?
Sometimes if people remind me. It all moves pretty quick. So I try to stay in the moment and in the future, it's everything happens moment to moment. So, and it's always been, it happens all pretty quick. It's been a good full one.
Yeah. It sounds like it, at least, that you've lived enough lifetimes for probably 3 people.
It feels like it sometimes.
Has art always been part of the equation? Have you always been somehow involved with art?
Yeah, ever since I can remember, actually. My first memories of it, actually, it's funny you mentioned the San Luis Valley, is when I was a kid, we lived in Monte Vista. I moved there till I was about 5 years old. And then I think we left a few times, moved in and out of there, and then we moved to the Front Range in like 89. So, but that's pretty much where I remember wanting to do it all the time. And that's where music started for me and a lot of things in Monte Vista. So it's a great part of the country, I think.
It is. I was telling people when I was visiting, it's one of the few places on earth, and I've, had the opportunity to travel quite a bit. But when I get there, all of my cares, all of the stress just kind of washes away from me. And I just feel like I'm home down there.
Yeah, it's in a totally different world. Yeah. I think that's the first place I ever showed art too. I think it was about 7 or 8. And it was at the fairgrounds. I think it was like the county fair or something like that. And I got a blue ribbon for, I can't remember what the award said, but yeah, it was a sculpture I made out of junk, like cans and spark plugs. I made like a robot. I still have it too, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, that's kind of where everything kind of originated, I think. I saw they had the brush fires down there a couple weeks ago, and they had the helicopter footage, and they showed on the news the actual house we lived in, which was pretty cool. It got me thinking about a lot of like when when I had this idea to kind of go down this road. And I think that's when it kind of became irresistible.
That's really cool that you had entered a piece of yours. This, I guess it was found object art, right? Essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
We wouldn't have called it probably that back then, but that's kind of the catchphrase these days, right?
Right, exactly, right.
And how old were you? 6 or 7, you said?
Probably around that age, yeah. From what I can remember, the timeline, yeah. That was about the time too. I started trumpet lessons too. So it was, kind of all that kind of, I think, happened around the same time. Yeah.
Now that's something that I got to say that I can't recall. And do you, Wes, talking to anybody that had talked about entering a piece of art in like a county fair or what have you?
Yeah,
that used to be a big deal.
Yeah. But the people we've talked to, we haven't really talked about that much anyway. I don't recall any. Yeah, but that is a big deal. I mean, they still have it here. You'll go down to the county fair here, or it's Central States Fair, and they'll have a whole art exhibit of, all ages and age groups and styles. And yeah, that's so cool.
So how did that make you feel at that young age, winning a blue ribbon?
Oh, it was great. It was like one of the first things I accolades, I suppose. But I didn't know what I didn't really know the impact of creating something, being an artist. I didn't know any artists besides my mom. She was kind of like a clothing designer, and at a young age, my dad said she made all of her clothes. So she kind of instilled a lot of creativity in the house, because she was like that herself. And my dad was an engineer, and I guess on his side, it was like he would do designs, and we'd see blueprints all the time and stuff, because art in its own way, I guess. But it was always kind of around. So I was aware of what it was to make something. But all these years down the road, I'm still intrigued, kind of the way I was back then. Not sure what it is still, but yeah.
Always that thing that just gets you jazzed.
Yeah, like kind of a compulsion in a way. Just got to make something, or I'll feel behind in a weird way.
And I'm always intrigued by that, like, this compulsion that a lot of artists have. Not every single person, but I would say the vast majority of the people that we've talked to on this podcast have this thing that you just got to make something. You just got to do it.
Right. Yeah. It's once I get on a roll, it becomes that. Like, once I have it be a kind of a regular habit, wake up, draw, before coffee. By noon, I'm painting. And that once kind of a discipline in a way, then that kind of compulsion comes, where even when I'm standing getting coffee, it's like, I got to get back to the studio or wherever I'm working on stuff. And always on many unfinished ideas. I think that creates kind of a tension.
So do you have multiple projects going on at any given time? Is that the way it works in your world?
I like to have multitask and have a lot going on. Like usually when I'm painting, I'm not only just doing one, they're all over the room. I work slowly on a bunch of stuff at the same time. And then I have other projects too, which are, like writing and a lot of music stuff that gets backlogged. Kind of feel behind on those genres, but it's once I get a discipline going, it's a never ending process, I suppose.
So you're never bored. You're probably never in that space where it's like,
no,
I just don't know what to do. Because if you're not feeling it with one of your advocations, one of your projects, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have something else that you can go, well, that's not working, or I'm not feeling it today. I can go make music or compose music.
Right. I knocked the dust off of another project. Yeah. That I have kind of sitting around. The multitasking is fun. I like to have a lot going on, kind of like a factory of some sorts.
A one-man factory?
Kind of, yeah. And I like to have a lot of opportunities come my way because galleries and people know I just always have a ton of stuff going on. So last minute, when someone else backs out of a booking, I've always been able, I get calls because they're like, this guy's got to have a couple going on that we can get in there. So a lot of opportunities come that way. So there's benefits to it. Lack of sleep, but I have one loaded for at all times in case I get a last minute opportunity,
You seem extremely prolific and,
mm-hmm.
and you already just touched on that. What is a typical day for you?
I like a typical working day is waking up, drawing. A lot of drawing, got to get loose. I'm not a natural, so it takes a whole lot of practice. Some people can I have some of my colleagues are quite natural at what they do. And I've always had to put a little more labor in it. Drawing for a few hours, a lot of coffee. And then usually by noon, I get kind of in the mood and I'll work until late, like 6 or 7. And then, it's kind of a repeated cycle. I found if I have kind of like a military type regimen for it, a lot of ideas come quickly, as well as I can start where I left off a lot easier that way too. That way it turns into a habit.
Sure. Mm-hmm. You got to flex that muscle, right?
Right. Yeah. When I lived in Denver, it was, I always did stuff early mornings. It was the quietest part of the day. But now in Fort Collins, I'm up a little north. I stay kind of a lot more latitude to work throughout the day before you have to share the place with other people.
I can understand that. It's nice to have your own space and quiet, right, to work in.
Right. Yeah, because that's part of the process too. A little bit of meditation.
So the drawing, is that part of your meditation? That's to get the juices kind of flowing?
Yeah. It's kind of like stretching before the workout, I suppose. Yeah, and I do a lot of research in the morning. I'll just Google something and look up a lot of images and a lot of reference material before I kind of jump into the drawing. And a lot of rendering. Some days I just draw other people's photographs. I have a whole bank of where I'll use my own photographs just to get loose. And then usually that happens, and I'll have a lot of material then to choose from in a way. When I don't have a lot of ideas, I have a lot of just stuff sketched up or drawn that I could just grab off a stack just to keep the process moving.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I do something very similar. I call it a clip file, and that's how I generate ideas when I'm kind of at a loss. And it's not necessarily to copy that photograph, but there's some element that I've saved, that picture from that magazine. It's, posing or composition or lighting, something about it that I'll just flip through them. Right. And kind of get the juices flowing in my brain.
Yeah. The more visuals, because sometimes throughout the process, you'll discover why you picked those images for the reference, as well as it all grabs a little inspiration. I see things I wouldn't have thought about.
Right.
Sometimes. And it's usually real subtle things. Like even in the photographs, it'll be a flower in the way background, fuzzy. You know what I mean? That'll be the thing I just trip on, and I can't really get my focus off of it, but it'll end up in the process somewhere though, that sort of thing.
I love that. I think that's so cool that's part of your process.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure that we've talked to other people that, you know, that do that. So when you jump on early in the morning and you're looking for reference material, are you just doing something like trees pop in your head? So you Google trees, images of trees, and you just pull stuff up, or
people walking on a beach. And then I'll start studying the shadows that are cast from the light. And that'll be, then it'll turn into a search of shadows of people walking on the beach. I'll just kind of, or lately it's been clouds, photographs of clouds, painting of clouds, American contemporary artists painting of clouds. And I'll just see kind of the way other people do it and compare it to the photographs. And then I walk outside and look at the clouds for two hours if I want to, just to get, then it's live on TV that way. But yeah, and daily it changes. The process, of course, it always changes, but and the kind of the way I look at the world. But years ago, I just would flip through Time and Life magazines, old ones, and just kind of, you know, take photographs onto my phone or actually cut clippings and kind of do collage, and a lot of ideas would come from that. But I'm really intrigued by black and white photography too, because then I get to, ever since I was a kid, then you could put the colors in, you know, then you could imagine more with the black and white.
So did you always have a pretty active imagination?
I think so too. That's a pretty spacey kid, I believe. Still am. Yeah, that's something. Yeah, I think I was always in the mood to create, kind of choose your own adventure sort of thing. Imagine other tangents, you know. But yeah, I think growing up, we were allowed to do that in my house. It was very imaginative. And we moved around the country quite a bit. So yeah, different perspectives for sure.
Because
a lot of riding in a car and staring out the window, you know,
right?
Like you have to do something with that time, or else me and my brother would be fighting in the back of the car, so to speak. So,
and then dad gets involved and it goes sideways from there.
Right. And he always wins. Right. Exactly.
Because dads have this ability, like, tune shit out until it ramps up to a certain level. And then at that point, right. And I don't know how your dad was. Maybe he was totally chill, but you know, in my house,
very chill guy, but with twin boys, I'm sure he had a limit.
There's a point where the yelling starts or the car gets pulled over by the side of the road, and you get the speech, right?
Exactly. Yep.
I think it's really interesting, you know, talking about, you know, riding, you know, in the car. Mm-hmm. I don't think kids really get to experience it the way that we did growing up, right? We didn't have cell phones and entertainment systems in the car. You know, like, you know, you played car games or you looked out the window and, you know, let your mind wander, imagine what it was like to, you know, be a farmer on that farm, or, you know, see people working, doing something and thinking, oh, I wonder what their lives are like.
Oh yeah. It was infinite adventures out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a generation that, maybe two generations at this point, that have kind of lost out on that, you know?
Yeah. Everybody flies everywhere. They just get on an air. It's so much more my family, you know, it was like kind of a hassle to get us kids and everybody on an airplane. We drove everywhere.
Yeah.
So when I turned 21 was the first time I ever flew, and it seemed like a time machine, because I knew what it was like to drive from Colorado to Florida, but flying it took like an hour and a half. I was there. It was it freaked me out a little bit, because it took you days to get there, and then all of a sudden I'm there and I'm like, not real. This isn't real. But yeah, now everybody just flies around. So those long trips, I don't know. I think there was a real kind of nostalgia to the old road trip.
I agree. There's nothing like being out on the open road, I think.
Oh yeah. And I got to tour with bands too. So once just hopping in the van with friends for a couple of weeks and seeing their music, and I felt like I was kind of made for it, because I'd kind of done it half my life, you know. So it was fun.
It's like a natural progression, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Did you travel a lot? You said you moved around a lot because of your father's job, because he was an engineer?
Yep, he was worked for the Forest Service and BLM and stuff like that. So he had projects all over the place, and instead of us staying in one place and him coming home on the weekends, so to speak, we just went with him. A lot of towns, quite a bit of towns around the country. But yeah, it's weird. I was telling my friend I get skittish around August because it's time to move. I start packing my stuff up in my mind. It's like a thing that happened for so many years that just always ready to go. But then I have to tell myself I could stay. It's like, you don't have to go anywhere this year, man. But yeah, it was, so we got to see a lot of the country. It was nice. I think it was a great way to grow up.
Well, it teaches you so much, experiencing different people from different places. I don't think there's a better education than that.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of moving and traveling, you haven't traveled too far, but so recently you moved from Denver to Fort Collins, but you have a Fort Collins connection already. But what was the catalyst for you deciding to move back to Fort Collins?
It's kind of where it all started. When I think I was 18 or 19 when I moved up here to go to college, and I stayed here for 11 years on and off. And I loved Denver for quite a while, but Denver got kind of loud. Turned into, over the last 6 years, it changed for me. Like as an artist living on the cheap, and the ideas became more expensive than it had been. And like years ago in Denver, it wasn't too much to open up your own gallery or throw your own shows, so to speak. And Denver just got kind of crowded as far as that, and things got more expensive for people. Rehearsal spaces were hard to come by. Studio space prices went up for that, and the rent. And I don't know, kind of on the adventurous stuff, I kind of wanted to. I'd been away from here for a long time, and I just wanted to come back and kind of feel the vibe and paint and do art in kind of the way I did when I was in my 20s. Because Denver, it was most of my 30s, 30 to recent, and I don't know. I just kind of wanted to revisit it and see if what came out of it artistically, mainly, just to start where it kind of all started.
So how's the vibe change for you?
Oh, it's so very quiet. It was almost too perfect the first couple of days because I lived down on the South Broadway area in Denver, and it was quite loud. So when I came up here, the ears were ringing a bit. People are so nice. I forgot all these things about why I lived here in the first place. It was very clean and very quiet, and just people are very nice. And
so I know, how long you been in Fort Collins now? This last time?
I think I've been here the month of May, so it's very new to me again.
Oh, it's very new. So it probably hasn't had a big impact on your art yet.
In a way it has. I can see subtleties in it, how it's changed. It's things are getting a lot brighter. I'm painting what's outside of my room, in a sense. a lot of things I was doing in Denver, you could tell it's very confining. It was inside a room. A lot of the paintings were inside. And now I'm kind of like painting a lot of clouds and using a lot of different colors just accidentally. You kind of have you can be patient to observe the world around you up here in a different way than Denver was more of a survival instinct for me. I realized over the years I loved the city, but I'm not a city guy. And that's why being back here, it feels like it was kind of the right choice. And to like explore a lot of my collaborators from when I was in my 20s, they didn't go, they're all still here, or they've all moved back as well. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
All these 16 years later, creating with the same guys when I had hair on my head, when I was younger. It's it's going to be nice. I think enriching, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see like a year from now, how your perspective in your art has changed maybe.
Right. Cause I come from like in a very observant place, a lot from memory and things I see. So yeah, I'm curious to see how it ends up from kind of painting from the concrete to the grassy fields in a way. It's because I've already noticed here hypersensitive. There's not a lot of static there in Denver. There was a lot of noise all the time, and here there's just less. So you have more time to realize like what it's like. Oh, in Denver it would be like, wow, I didn't even notice spring was here, and here it's like right up in your face. So it's nice. I like it.
Fort Collins is a lovely town.
Yeah, I've been lucky to be able to live here for sure. I think over the years,
I've spent a fair amount of time in Fort Collins,
Mhm.
living there in the early '90s, and I enjoyed it. And every time I go back or drive through there or stop and eat a meal at one of the local restaurants, I always think, God, I miss this.
Oh yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's not everybody comes here or knows where it is, but but it's kind of a perfect situation for me. I like it.
It's definitely grown,
Yeah,
but it's
it
nothing
has.
like Denver. I mean, it's from when I lived there to now, it's it's a totally different place. But I think it still has that that same kind of feel to it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Kind of. There's a lifestyle up here. There definitely is. People walk everywhere. It's a lot more laid back for sure. I think the no rat race is the way somebody told me it was rush hour the other day when I went into work, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. It took 7 minutes to get here. I was like, this is nothing. But there's all those things I'm noticing where people, the traffic's bad out there. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's so easy.
So you went to college there. That was your introduction to Fort Collins when you went to school?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And so did you go to school for art?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I
was curious about that.
Yeah. I was just working on a painting BFA. I got sidetracked with more art, sidetracked my art career, as I like to say.
So you didn't finish your degree, or?
I got very close. And then my friends started signing record deals and being able to tour and go around the country. And I got into hopping in vans and going with them. That was kind of an aspiration I always wanted. I read Kerouac on accident, so I just had to do it, So, and just locally here in town, there was so much music going on. I wanted to be part of it. So I got a job at a record store, the finest. It was an old record store up here that was, I call my formative years. There's so much. I worked in a library of music out of nowhere. And then I wanted to work in live venues and kind of learn about it and be in the middle of it. So, but that also just helped my artwork too. It's always had like kind of a punk rock and kind of a rock and roll club kind of feel to it. Like most of my paintings, they're all set up like rock and roll flyers. I do it on accident, but you're like, you could put text here and here and here kind of thing. So
you know what? You're right, because it does have that graphic element, and I can see that now that you mention it.
A lot of my process comes from sitting in Kinko's with scissors and glue sticks and making rock flyers out of like collaging it and different letters out of different magazines and stuff. But yeah, it comes out in it, definitely. No matter how fine art I try to be, it still ends up kind of those old days at Kinko's.
Kind of that DIY punk aesthetic, right?
Yeah. Free Photoshop, as I like to call it. Where you didn't know many guys that were graphic artists back in the day. So you had to just kind of do what you wanted, and on a limited budget. We were doing these things when my friends were working the overnight shift there, when it was open 24 hours.
Oh, yeah.
We'd wait till our buddies had to work the overnight, and we'd go in there and have, we were on a limited budget. So it worked out pretty well back then. I hope they kept their jobs, those guys.
Oh, that's awesome, man. So you got derailed in the whole school thing, but you're still doing art. you're making posters and doing promotional materials for bands. Is that correct?
Yep. A lot of that. And I'm booking my own shows too for bands, friends bands and venues around town.
So you were managing bands as well?
Just mainly just promoting. Came up with like a production company kind of name and just started booking lineups of mainly our friends bands, like renting venues, a sound guy, and just getting 3 bands up there to make noise for the kids, you know?
So you were encouraged by your mom
Mm-hmm.
and by your family to be creative and do art. You studied painting, you said, in college?
Yeah, it started as photography. I was going to go to school for photography, but that's an expensive habit back then for, 17, 18-year-old. It kind of limited. It was too literal for me at that age. I could record things, but I couldn't express myself very much. It just seemed limiting. So I got really into drawing and painting. I was really into surreal photography, like very set up shots. And I was like, well, I could just do that in my own world and draw and paint this. So it's kind of like that Salvador Dali, and the cat's in the air.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that photograph. I wanted to do things like that. And I was like, I didn't think I had the background or the skill at the time, and I saw a lot of photographers that did that, sketching and, making very literal sets for it. And I was like, well, I'll just do that. I'm just going to draw it up and move it around and do it kind of the way I want to. So that turned into painting. And then I just kind of fell in love with it after that. I'd always done it, but formally being taught, that's kind of the direction I wanted to go.
Let's start talking about your painting. Take a moment and describe what you do as a painter.
Oh, pretty much stretch canvas. I'll take a stretch canvas. I do kind of a wheat paste process with pages of books. I've always kind of collected bad, awful, beat up books from garage sales that they'll be selling for a dime. Or in Denver, the guys at Mutiny Information Cafe, I could go through the books or their boxes of tore up bindings and stuff. And I grab anatomy books and if I see some Hunter S. Thompson books or poetry books, I'll use those pages as a wheat paste kind of process and just kind of glue them to the surface as just a base layer. Because I like using a lot of pen and ballpoint pen, and you can't really do kind of the way I like to draw and stuff directly onto the canvas. But I leave parts of the canvas for a little bit of texture too sometimes. But I kind of like that soft paper kind of feel. That way, the multimedia I do is sometimes it's watercolor, sometimes it's acrylic. I use different kind of inks, so that just working on paper is comfortable that way. I can fix it a lot too. It's very fixable. Unlike if it's just like classically the way it would be on a canvas, sometimes I couldn't fix stuff and the frustration mounts. So. Yeah, and that comes kind of from the punk rock thing, because that's how those punk flyers would start. You'd have a background, and you didn't want it to take away from what was going to be the layers in the foreground and the actual content of the piece, I guess. So it's a non-distracting layer is what I like to call it. I like using sheet music for that too.
I've seen that in some of your pieces, and I thought that was really interesting and really, really cool, really well thought out.
Yeah, for a while I was finding like classical sheets and putting them in the back of the thing, and then when people would be interested in the painting, I'd leave the part saying composer and what piece it was, and people would look it up on YouTube or whatever, and it was cool because then the piece would have a soundtrack that someone could listen to and along with it, which I thought that was I didn't think of that until I'd probably done 20 or 25 of them. But I was like, yeah, you can actually maybe listen to the painting because it's, because there's music in it, because it's the way I kind of work is it's riffing like a little bit of like jazz. So, or music for that instance. So people thought it was clever, but I didn't mean to do it. I just noticed that, many pieces later, how you could use that layer to bring out another multimedia media, I suppose. So
Yeah. So it just happened organically, but then you realize, hey, now I realize that incorporating this music, this sheet music, that I kind of give people some of the pieces of the puzzle, and then they can kind of take it from there.
right, yeah. And I had one friend that bought it, and he sent me a little video. Bought one, and he sent me a little video. He's an actual piano player that can read sheets. So he actually was playing what was already on the painting, which I thought was pretty cool. So
cool.
It just kind of I thought it was like a accidental interacting kind of that happened with it, which I thought that was pretty cool. Being from like kind of a live music kind of background and stuff like that, I was like, nice. It's just another a way of reaching people, another language, I guess that I used in it, which I thought was, I wish it would have been part of the whole idea in the beginning, but just because it happened, organically, I thought that was kind of special about it here and there.
So how as this evolved, now do you search out certain music to incorporate in a piece that you have an idea for?
No, I haven't done that really yet. No. I just kind of, if that happens, if I just happen to get Mozart or I get an odd Coltrane sheet or something, I like to just put it in there. Right now I have like one of those music theory for idiots kind of books, and I'm using stuff from that, and it's more like just basic knowledge of music theory in the back, and I don't, it's kind of fun because I'm learning by reading it as I paint, because every once in a while I'll glance down and see what I'm looking at. But yeah, it's kind of just whatever I got laying around. But I did do a piece where my twin brother, he published a book where it was his poems with a QR code on the opposite page, and you would scan it with your phone, and it would go to a YouTube video or a live or a recorded spoken word version of what was on the page, which that was sort of the kind of interaction that was more deliberate, I suppose, but pretty interesting.
So when you incorporate some of the non-musical elements from magazines or books, do you pull concepts from that, or is it just really kind of the background layer?
I just kind of use it as the background layer.
Okay.
Like right now I'm using the instructions from the COVID test.
Oh, I love that.
At the moment, yeah. I mean, the pictures of the swab up the nose, I just think it's going to be sort of memorable.
Oh, yeah.
Or I was using the inspector tags for the masks. At where I worked in Denver, you'd get a bunch of masks to sell, and I had a little inspected by with the number, and I was taking dozens of those and throwing them in. So it kind of it reflects the times, I suppose. Some of the stuff I do pick to do it with, and sometimes I'll put my bill collection notices in the background, or my resume. I've taken old resumes that are on old computers and thrown it on there. But yeah, it's just kind of what's laying around. It just creates texture. Words create texture. But I go back and read what's actually in there. It's pretty interesting.
Oh, that's cool.
I love that, man. What a great way to repurpose things and then, make it pertinent to either the time we're living in or, something that relates to you directly. I think that's right. Really interesting.
I just got to make sure my social security number's not on anything.
Right. Steal this.
Yeah.
So I as a viewer of art, I think it'll be interesting to like talk to people on the side and say what do they get from it, and see how many people pull like a connection between what they're seeing as the background and what the actual painting is, and what connections they're making.
Yeah, it would be a definite interpretation for sure, and to see people maybe see some sort of correlation between my ideas and visually and kind of what I did on accident. It's just another cool like connection and story. Yeah. And it's kind of the way I've kind of pulled it is it's that interaction of me using my imagination, and then I suck other people into it, and they make their own summations of, things I thought maybe I they think I did deliberately, and they do trying to do detective work. I think it's really interesting to kind of to hear feedback on it.
Yeah, because art is a collaborative effort. You know, if somebody thinks about, we've kind of talked about this in the past, that, you know, you look at a piece of art and now you're a collaborator with the artist, because you're gaining something from the piece of work.
Yeah, and I learned early on that evoking emotion, no matter what it is, from art, that's kind of the purpose. From art, from music, to evoke intrigue and memories from the past or connections. That's what I learned as early on, that's part of the job, and it's the part of the responsibility as well of being an artist. Is what do you want to pull out of people? You know, do you want to as an artist, you could pull sorrow, anger, happiness, beautiful things, but yeah, you could be on the dark side, or you could do it for. There's a responsibility to it as well.
Yeah.
New Magazine is our media sponsor for the Tenet podcast. That's NUE. You can follow both the national and the Denver edition of New Magazine on Instagram. The national edition can be found at new_magazine and the Denver edition at new_Denver_magazine. Look to New for compelling stories from the world of art and fashion. Thanks for listening.
I'm Vincent Cheap, and you're listening to the Tenet podcast.
You touched early on about the, compulsion of needing to make things. Why do you do the work that you do?
Growing up, it was always reading history books, and you wondered how they ended up there. You know, like Lewis and Clark, or like as a kid, things you learn in school. Why did they get picked for history? Like, what made them well known? For me, I just figured if I do things day to day for a very long time, by the end of, it's kind of morbid for a kid to think this, but when I die, I leave a lot of me. I'll never kind of, I always thought that as a little kid. It was like, wow, like you see George Brett, he's got all these accolades, and he left all this stuff through all this hard work that he worked on every day to a certain point. And it's kind of like a thought like that, is like, well, if I do this every day and I do a lot, when I'm gone, it'll always be there. And that was part of moving around as well, is like, now I hear people, I saw your painting in Kansas City, or I saw a painting of yours in Chicago. It's weird to think I exist in those places. Yeah, that's part of the compulsion, has always been like, I'll always be here. It's weird moving back to Fort Collins. I see my paintings on friends' walls, and I'm like, I've been here the whole time almost. It's just kind of I've always kind of held on to that and thought of that part of the innocence, or the innocent nature maybe of my work, or kind of my goals. And it's as simple as that. You're like learning songs as a kid. You were like, wow, this was written 50 years ago, and now I'm playing it, that kind of thing, and kind of striving for that, and not in a pretentious way, I think, or in a too much self-love, I suppose, but like, and not in an important sort of like self-important part of the way. I was just like, wow, could you imagine my pictures in 100 years be hanging somewhere? I was just thought that. And then I learned that it was like, wow, I'm going to have to do a lot of them. So yeah, that was kind of just something I grabbed from my childhood that I try to always keep as one of the thoughts when I go into it. So.
Were you always curious as a child? Oh
yeah, always. I was telling my mom the other day, I was like, you know what I love about our family is we're always so willing to learn still. I was like, you guys are old as hell, and you're just wanting to learn all the time. And I'm middle-aged, and I just want to learn. And it's always been kind of just the way of life is, just learn from your environment, learn formally, learn from common sense and failure, I suppose, too. So. Yeah, it's always been kind of a drive. There's a lot of room upstairs. Yeah, so very observant to what's going on, I suppose.
Yeah, I subscribe to the same thought of just lifelong learning. I'm always reading or watching a documentary or going down deep dives in some obscure thing that I just heard a snippet about, and then I'm down. I love that.
Like I call it the wormhole. Now that the internet's around, it's like I don't have to leave. I can just, it's like having all the knowledge in your hand.
Yeah.
It's an amazing time to be alive for sure.
It really is.
Knowing both sides of having one foot in the future and one foot in the past, and knowing like, it's like, Grandpa, what was it like before the internet? It was like, you had to go to the store, man. Like I'm only 46 and I already say stuff like that. It's funny.
You had to know the Dewey Decibel System.
Yeah. And they're like, what? You did that? Those are codes. That's code. Yeah. It's nuts. Or you had to remember people's phone numbers. Who's gonna get me out of jail? I better Sharpie that on my arm.
But just think of how many numbers you knew in the top of your head. Like,
many.
All your friends. Yeah.
I know like one now. Just one. Yep.
Oh man, and always intrigued by history, because it sounds like you you
definitely
loved it as a kid, and then I saw in another interview that even though you're a musician, a lot of times when you're working, you're not necessarily listening to music, but you listen to historical documentaries.
Oh, lots. That's the beauty of YouTube. Is like, I just go into a wormhole and I'll what did I do before I left Denver? I was interested in the Russian czars, so I listened to probably like 8 hours of documentaries about that, because it wasn't something I learned in school, and it doesn't have a direct correlation with it, but like osmosis. I feel that if it's something, I'll hear certain things I'm interested in and all those things. But yeah, sometimes you just want to hear people talk. I grew up with NPR. Those sorts of things. And sometimes it's just nice to have it in the background. So.
Absolutely.
The one thing I loved about NPR is I traveled around a fair amount when I was probably in my 30s, and everywhere you went, you could turn on a local NPR station and that voice would be there. So you'd be new, and like I'd be in Cedar Rapids for the first time, but you turn on the radio, it's the same voices. So it was like, gave you some comfort, Right.
Yeah. Like the Prairie Home Companion is one of that I remember. It was it was, or Steve Harvey was another one years ago when I was young. Yeah. It was always kind of felt like a little bit of home without,
I want to take a moment and talk about a piece. This is a piece that Wes wanted to talk about. This is called White Rhino Brodeo Rodeo. This is a recent piece, right?
Actually that's within the last 2 weeks, I believe. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about this and kind of a little bit about the thought behind it.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. The white rhino part, that came from a strain of weed we used to smoke in college, oddly enough. And someone was like, whatever happened to that? And I was like, you know what? I don't know. And we were in my buddy's backyard and horseshoe games going on and grilling. And I was kind of like, dude, I'm going to go home and I'm going to paint what your backyard makes me feel like. So that's kind of what I came up with, because my friends are clowns, and I had to do them. And, but yeah, that's kind of where that came from. And that's kind of how, a lot of them come about, is I will just come up with a phrase or kind of, like I just said, like, this is the way your backyard makes me feel. And I'll kind of just go and I'll either do it right away or it'll happen years later, kind of thing.
Well, and the background is the sheet music we talked about.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like this piece. I don't know. As you probably know or don't know, I'm from South Dakota. So, I grew up in the whole rodeo kind of thing, as far, not as a participant, but as just a family thing. I had cousins that did it professionally, and so lots of rodeo. So I really like that. And then, then the fact that he's on a rhino and a white rhino, I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Music.
I was doing like, I've painted a bunch of cowboys on horses and stuff. I'm really into like the Western noir kind of stuff. And, I just thought it would just be a kind of like throw an opposite in there, like a little, why is the rhino so little? I get, those sorts of things. I'm like, I don't know, man. Maybe the cowboy's just huge. And part of the rodeo thing comes from too is my folks live in Evergreen, and they live up on the top on a side of a hill right above the Evergreen Rodeo. So living up there during my high school years is like the whole neighborhood grills. It's like a stadium. It's pretty cool. So that's why you'll see a lot of the cowboy references as well in some of the stuff.
And then the power lines, what's that about? Was that a view from his backyard, or?
No, actually I was just kind of remembering my my alley and the alley behind my house in Denver off of South Broadway. It's kind of like a time machine. If I feel like I'll have what I'm remembering and then what is actually happening in a piece. And yeah, that's kind of like a little bit of clip of the past narrative, but they were always very silhouetted at night. So there's randomness like that it's good you ask, because it helps me to or be able to articulate it, because I don't always explain it to folks.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love the fact that you're pulling different thoughts and memories or feelings and incorporating them into one piece, because, I would think a lot of times you would be stuck like, this is what I want to capture. But the fact that you're willing to just bring in these random thoughts and put them in a piece, I think that's really interesting. And I'm sure most artists do that. I'm sure they're not, taking a literal time snap and recreating it, but it's just interesting, the creative thought that's behind it.
I'm a movie crazy about movies. I watch so many movies and growing up, and it's like, it's kind of the bleed between the present time and the flashback. Sometimes the frame becomes a little double exposed with both times in the same frame. So a lot of kind of the somewhat ideas that come up with through these are from a lot of cinematography and those compositions.
Yeah.
It's a dreamscape.
Yep, absolutely. Like halfway the time when you're half awake, but you're still in a kind of trying to stay in a dream when you're, it's kind of right there.
Why such vibrant colors? I love this about your work. It's what stands out. I got to see the Three Kings show at Bit Factory last fall.
Excellent.
And I was just taken by the work. I'd seen your work on social media. Bill Thomason, who owns Bit Factory, had told me about you, and I started checking out your work. Seeing the work in person, totally different experience. But what I really love about the work is these vibrant colors that you use.
That comes from, I spent some time in South Beach, Miami when I was in my early 20s. And just the spectrum of colors there was insane. But a lot of my work before that had been in real reds and orange and kind of earth tones, because I was from Colorado. It's what I was seeing. And I went out there and it was overstimulating explosion of color, because I lived around the Art Deco district of down there, and the juxtaposition of the beach and those colors. But I mean, you're talking hot pinks and just nothing like I'd seen here. And I took a lot of photographs, and I just decided that was going to be my palette from here on out. A lot of pastels and bright colors. And I kind of stuck with it, as well as when I first was hanging artwork in places, it was like in bars and dark rock and roll clubs. And I learned if the brighter it is with no lights, people can still see it in these dark places. They stick out. And that was kind of inspired by a guy from Denver named Lindsey Kuhn. He does a lot of concert and posters and silkscreen, and they're always just so bright. And when you'd be in a rock club, you could see in Austin or wherever around the country, you could see his stuff from across the room. So it kind of became something out of necessity in those dark places. I was, instead of it, people seeing it when the lights came on at 2 a.m., they could see it the whole time. So it kind of became a necessity as well. I always had an aversion to painting in yellow, hated yellow. And I I don't know, the last 4 or 5 years, that's kind of one of my base colors too. It's just obnoxious gold yellow. So
I love that, man.
So what do you think made you make that turn to doing more yellow?
Mainly probably because I was feeling bored with kind of the direction I was going. I think that was a lot of it, as well as the summers in Denver, the fires, and all the pollution blowing in. Everything was yellow. It looked like you were wearing a pair of blue blockers all day, and it made it seem even hotter in the summer in mid-July and created this heat. So yeah, that's kind of what I was seeing. It was bizarre. It was like being on another planet, kind of. So yeah, I think that's what happened, a lot of it too. And when I'd bring my paintings outside to photograph them, any of the white was, reflecting from taking the photograph. And it was, a lot of the photos were ending up yellowish. I was like, wow, if I just crank that up a little, that'll look pretty cool. So that's kind of, that happened throughout that. It's kind of an interesting time.
Yeah. I love the fact that you were like cognizant of it. Like, and then like, oh, if I crank this up a little bit, that'll really look cool. I love that. That thought process. Yeah.
It's kind of going with what I have, like a lot of, I don't know, a lot of times I've done this, I couldn't afford like the good paint or the big, enough paint to really experiment with. So I just kind of had to work with what was around me. And no matter what, working pizza boxes, painting on pizza boxes or plywood from construction sites, and not necessarily doing what I wanted to, but kind of what I had to, just to keep it going. So a lot of it comes from that. And I feel as though I'd never want to lose that, like use every part of the animal kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Use it till it's gone kind of thing. And that's where a lot of ideas come about, I think, and a lot of new methods is kind of trying to squeeze that little bit of red out of a tube, and it forces you to mix it with something else that you never thought, just to get a surface covered or something. It's kind of accidental. But even if I had $1 million, I'd still have to keep it kind of on that level, I think, because there's a desperation in it. There's this thing, artists do their best work when they're hungry, kind of thing. And yeah. I don't know, that's kind of part of the theory I like to keep in my workspace.
That challenge.
Yeah. Like when you have like 3 hairs left on a paintbrush, it's like, well, you got to do something with this,
Highlights. I'll do highlights.
or cut a couple straws off the broom and duct tape them together and try to use that. It's like, yeah, that's how like new things have come about, was out of necessity in a way. So
you've been painting for probably about 30 years. Like seriously?
I would say consciously. Yeah. I think so.
I see your posts all the time, either on Facebook or Instagram. How many paintings to date do you think you've done in the course of your career?
It's really hard to say. I know. That's really hard to say, because I've gone through very productive times, and then I think I'm at, like, right now I'm very kind of obsessively productive at like the last 2 or 3 years. But I would say last year it was probably, if it could average to about 2 a day sometimes.
Wow.
Yeah, for like good stretches, 3 or 4 month stretches, I could. Yeah. When I moved, I had over 100 paintings in my apartment. So yeah, I like to do that factory thing, and staying loose. And yeah, it's the kind of, with my processes, I've made it so it's kind of a speed process. I don't like to really work on things for that long, and I like to have a lot going on, but I like to do it very quickly.
So are you working on multiple pieces at one time?
Oh yeah, easily. Like right now, I'm working on 8 at the same time.
I don't remember who it was, but I seen somebody. They were painting. They had them lined up along the wall, and depending on what color he was painting, he would paint each one. And so he's thinking about 5 different paintings, and he's painting them all differently, but he's painting them at the same time.
Yeah, I like to do like series. Definitely like 5 or 6 at a time for that'll have the same kind of feel to them and the same colors. And that came out of I don't know, more of a decorative kind of. I learned more about interior decorating from friends and that are in the field and stuff. And it was like, well, if I could sell one to somebody, maybe they'll decorate their whole house with it, you know? And I was like, oh, I could do 5 that'll kind of, they just have to get cushions for the couch kind of thing to match the work kind of thing. So, but that kind of worked out for me because now I can pick from 5 or 6 and pick the one I want to show in a show or whatever. Instagram's made it very awesome because I can show on a daily basis and stuff like that. But when I have like a gallery show at like Bill's, I think he curated that show out of like 50 of mine. And I think he picked like 13 or 14. So it gives those kind of like Bill, it gave him the opportunity to choose from a massive amount of images, which it was challenging but it was kind of a cool to see what he picked.
Yeah, I bet to see somebody else, a fellow artist and curator, look at your work, a body of work, and see what resonated with him based on the show that he was putting together, right?
Exactly. And it was kind of I thought it was kind of an honor for him to curate the show at the Bit Factory for that because I mean, he'd seen the 3 artists, me and Josh Finley and Jason Cope. He'd had like 8 years of background on us and see us grow and show at his place and work on the side. And we kind of got to see him and grow as well as an artist. And for him to curate it, it was kind of really cool because he kind of knew the history of the whole thing. So.
And the show is called Three Kings. And there's a story behind this. Take a moment and tell our listeners, you know, the thought behind you 3 artists and the name Three Kings.
Oh, it was very cool because me and Jason Cope, we both worked at Three Kings for quite a while. I worked there for, I think, 10 or so years, and Jason for about half that. And Josh Finley was a fellow that always drew at the bar, sold his prints there on a daily basis. It was like his second studio, and we became really good friends. And Bill, he'd come in there with his buddies when I bartended there. And that's how our relationship, I knew of his bands and stuff like that in the past, but that's how I found out he was an artist and he wanted to open a gallery. And he kind of, after the place closed, he wanted to bring what he brought from it. You know, he was like, it was always a place where people were creating and making something. And he kind of picked me and Cope and Finley to kind of be that, what he wanted to bring from it and curate a show of like our work. Cause a lot of it came from our interactions there for sure. It was a very cool, clever concept for Bill to come up with, I thought. And through his eyes, I thought that was great. And yeah, we had each of us, we got to, you know, do our own thing, but we each had to have 1 or 2 related to Three Kings, like subject matter. And yeah, it was very cool show.
He has an impeccable eye and he always puts on phenomenal shows, but I got to say that show ranks up there with one of my favorite shows that I've seen thus far from Bill. Just incredibly strong work, you know? And
yeah, thank you. It was Josh Finley's stuff was fantastic. I was so entertained by the toys and his whole take on it was so amazing. It was cool.
All 3 of you guys, incredibly, I hate using the word talented. I hate that word, but for lack of a better description, just incredible artists.
Right.
I hate that word because it infers that, you know, this is a God-given thing, right? And that's not the way it works. It's hard work. You've been grinding it out for 30 years to get to this place, right? And I think a lot of times people don't see that or understand that, you know, that's an artist's life. You know, you're striving to better the work, better your technique, the whole gamut of things to become, you know, where you're at, what you are.
It's a lot of alone time. A lot of hard work. Yeah. It's sometimes it's very isolating. Dudes like Bill and me and Jason Cope and and Finley, it was kind of a kindred thing. We all realized, that there is social sacrifices, and that it takes a lot more to have other people in the room that know kind of what the whole thing feels like, the defeats, the wins, the and being able to just share all that hard work finally for like a couple of nights. It's, to have other people in the room that completely knew where it came from too. That's why it was cool that Bill put like kind of a geography on that.
While you were at Three Kings, and Three Kings is now closed, and a very popular bar here in Denver. You also, for a while, were curating shows in the basement of Three Kings. Is that correct?
Yeah. They Jim Norris, he was kind of the leader of the ringed circus. The newer and crazier the idea, the better. It was really a blessing meeting him early on when I moved to Denver and getting the job there, because he just gave you a chance all the time. It was great. I was like, I want to do art shows in the basement. He's like, done. I want to do these shows upstairs, and we're going to have projectors. Done. Like it was, he always encouraged the most unique environment as a guy who owned a club. He's kind of a cheerleader for all of us too. So the shows down there, what a unique spot though. I always just thought it was like in the basement of a rock club. Your neighbor, the gallery's neighbors, loud. They're the neighbors upstairs because it was in the basement, and it was a very large place with funny, the ceiling restrictions. It was funny. The ceiling was about 7 feet, I think. So if you were tall, you were scraping your head on the ceiling, and you always had to tell artists, you're like, you have to do the ones that are more horizontal. You can't hang anything tall. It's not going to fit. But it was always cool because people would walk in. It was kind of like truly the underground. People would come in for the art show and they would be like, well, where's the art show? And you were like, it's downstairs. And they're like, wild. And I think it was a cool experience for people to come to Denver and just see this like weird unknown spot that was huge. And it was, I loved the shows that we got to do down there. A lot of themed shows. But yeah, Jim and Daniel Crozier's another guy that just did amazing stuff in that place. Just amazing stuff. So yeah, it was very, very fun. A lot of booze, a lot of rock and roll. It was a fun situation for sure.
And then later you were part of a collective of artists called Cabal, correct?
Yep. That was a great social experiment, we call it. I think there was the founding members it was like more of a co-op. I think there was 8 of us. And we got a great place. Mar Williams was renting I can't remember the name of the old place they had, but we got this huge space to rent. And we just went all came up with a couple $100 and made it happen. And we, the numbers dwindled over time down to, I think Mar was the last person to be there of the original group of folks, but that was artists of all walks for that, for sure. Joshua Finley was one of them. Jesse Frazier goes by Fame Worldwide. Yeah, there was a lot of folks. It was fun. Big, huge building, great experience. A lot of hard work though.
Just wasn't sustainable at the time, or what kind of what was the thing that kind of made it?
So whenever there a lot of opportunities came for folks, lack of time, and lack of funds sometimes. Art's a hard game. You can't. There's not always the finances to do the things that the ideas and the way you want to. So I think I was there for almost a year until other things were coming up. So yeah, I was there for about a year, but it went on for Mar ran it for quite a while after that and did a great job too. It got a lot cooler as the longer it was open, I think.
I feel like, as Denver's grown and it's developed, that it's gotten a lot more difficult to do those kind of things these days. That, studio rent is much more expensive. Space is a premium. I don't want to be nostalgic or, like the good old days or whatever, but I definitely feel like artists are getting pinched.
I think one of the things that was kind of happening there is people, even the owners of the venues, it got more expensive for them. The creativity, I think a lot of what on my end, a lot of places needed to put asses in the seats and pay the rent, So I think there are still very creative and awesome places, but I think the economic bearing on the artists and maybe the whole community as a whole kind of just changed the level of maybe wackiness that was going on. It's still there, but harder to find, so to speak. There are still spaces like Mutiny Information Cafe is an awesome place for you see a lot of awesome new ideas musically and creatively there. And it's like a creative festering place. It's, a lot of the nightclubs and stuff, the music kind of changed. You got to sell tickets now. If you're going to have a business, it's a business. So I think I've been very blessed by having, like guys like Bill and another place is called the Talk Gallery in Inglewood. That's amazing. I did a great show with Gordon over there. There are still people giving people a lot of artistic license without having those kind of things in mind, I think. But it's a great city still. There's so much awesome going on. But I think when you're an artist and you have to like hustle a lot more, because everything went up overnight, kind of, so to speak. So for me personally, that put a lot of less freedom for me.
And that's what we all want, right? As artists, we want freedom.
Yeah, more time to think and more time to kind of let the ideas slowly happen at times. It was just I think the pace of a city and what I was doing was like just a little too overstimulating, too much. So that's why I decided to kind of move up here and just give ideas and kind of the creative process a little more time instead of doing it in a panic sort of way, I suppose.
Sure.
Yeah.
Little more breathing room and also, change of venue kind of, that's a little bit of a
it's
palate cleanse, right?
Yeah, it's refreshing. And to be familiar with the place you go back to is pretty awesome too. A lot of the same people in the same scenery. It's kind of refreshing. You get to remember why you're at it in the first place, and that's kind of what the move to Fort Collins. I kind of wanted to explore that. So
now, do you see this as just kind of a temporary thing, or you just kind of feeling it out as you go along?
I've moved back to Fort Collins 6 times. This is my 6th time moving here. I always would leave and come back and leave, and I always thought of it as a pit stop. But at the moment, I'm thinking definitely, if I'm being 46, it's like you've done this 6 times, and I think it's home. So I feel really good about it. And us being in the technological age, which I'm still amazed. I feel like a caveman still, but I can work from here and share everything much the same as I was in Denver.
Sure.
Through the internet and things like that. And Fort Collins feels like a suburb of Denver anyway at this point. So it's geographically close enough, and I could still kind of have the same ability to share with folks as I did in Denver. It's just way tuned down.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to move to the suburbs in Denver. I wanted to, if I was going to live in Denver, I wanted to stay in Denver. And there just is no quiet place in that area of the state anymore. So
I want to talk about another piece. This one I really, really love. And it goes back to
oh, nice. Yeah.
Something you touched on before. There's something about this that just like kills me. This one's called Party at the Moon Tower. And as you were discussing earlier, you were talking about that, you described it as Western noir. And I was kind of thinking, looking at some of your stuff, I was like, some of the stuff reminds me of like old spaghetti Western movie posters, you know, how that had that graphicness to them and
Yep.
and kind of that noir feel to them. This is what I see in this particular piece here.
Definitely the spaghetti Western kind of feel to it. Absolutely. Yeah. And Neo Morricone playing in the background kind of, yeah, exactly. And this one kind of happened on accident. It was a painting that I painted vertically and I just got sick of looking at it. So I turned it and started that's how those flowers and in the sky happened kind of, and in the foreground as well. I just kind of left a lot of layers of what was going on already. Yeah, I kind of fell in love. The Party at the Moon Tower references from Dazed and Confused. I don't know. It's always stuck with me. I take photographs and send them to friends that are in on the joke kind of thing. The water towers just always kind of ended up in it's kind of a small town thing, I think. You know, when you're driving through the Midwest on the interstate, you look over, each town's got the water tower with the name of the town on it, you know. It's kind of like a reference to travels as well, I think.
I love this piece, man. This is awesome.
Thank you.
Have you sold that piece?
I believe so. I think my friend Rumley bought that. And yeah, he was digging on kind of the feel of that. And I did a commission for him as well of a bigger piece, sort of like this one too. Yeah.
I see these light bulbs in a lot of your compositions, a lot of your paintings. Where does that come from?
It's kind of hard. I don't know really. I've been doing the hanging light bulbs since I was a kid. I'm not quite sure. I thought I heard a story in college, a kid who moved to LA to make it big as an actor, right? And he goes out there and he leases like a super fancy car. It looks good, wearing the clothes, getting a couple rolls. But my friend went to his place and he lived in a 1-bedroom studio with no windows, and there was a pull string light bulb just hanging from the ceiling. And that might have a little bit to do with it, but that's an antidote I just pulled out of my head for it. But I don't know quite where that came from, but I've done it quite a bit for years and years.
I like it because it has two different kind of meanings. It's the light bulb and it's also the light in the sky, you know, whether it's stars or whatever, but they're hanging there by
it's kind of like I kind of think the analog, light bulbs, like a light bulb, like the ones I draw in those, it's kind of a thing of the past. It's more like an analog thing, so to speak. In the LED, I don't know, maybe a little bit of nostalgia there for the old hot light bulb when you change it or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that'll be something that, you know, in the next probably 10 years or so, light bulbs totally be gone. You know, you go to an estate sale and you'll find, you know, somebody that's actually selling like a box of light bulbs that they're, you know, that they changed out at one time for LED bulbs and they just kind of stashed them away, and then it'll be like a treasure trove, right?
Right. Yeah. Who knows?
So this will tell you how old I am. When I was a kid, I can remember when the light bulb guy would come to town, the GE, he would have a truck full of light bulbs, and he'd come and sell you light bulbs.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Huh. You know, you guys familiar with the old Kitty's Theater on South Broadway? When they were gutting that place, they had a bunch of boxes of the old marquee light bulbs, the clear ones and the blinkers. And they're quite small and they're clear. And I brought home like 2 boxes of those. And wherever you'd plug them in, I think there's ones around the town that have been they haven't gone out.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny that might have a little bit to do with it, maybe.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Nature plays a pretty big role in a lot of your works, you know, from birds to a lot of floral stuff. And what draws you, what makes you to incorporate that? Is it your love of nature, or?
At first it started as just an aesthetic, I think, but I don't know. I kind of got it's kind of a message of new, you know, how spring comes. A lot of the floral stuff, I suppose, like this particular piece, I do those in the winter. It's kind of a feeling of maybe hope and ready to get it over with. coming into the spring. But yeah, it's kind of a weird thing that a lot of the spring type ones I'll do, or with more of the floral stuff. I do a lot of those in winter for some reason. I don't know. It's kind of a feeling of hope, I suppose.
Yeah. I love the name of this. It doesn't have to be like this, Mr. Horse. And then there's the horse is a skeleton horse, but he has a stick with a carrot at the end, driving him forward.
I think I was listening to a lot of news or something around this time. And I don't know. I think it had some sort of implication of what was going on at the time. I'm not quite sure where it came from, but I had written that on the canvas, and then I just kind of put it together.
So if you can remember back, where did you start with this painting? Was it the flowers and then you added the horse, or did you start with the horse and then paint outward?
It started with the horse and with the stick with the carrot for sure. And then everything just happened around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a cool piece. I like that one a lot.
Thank you.
And you got birds, you got bees, flowers.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look closely, there's the light bulbs again in there.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Off in the background.
And then let me find this other piece here that I just really love. And I think it's a newer piece. So this piece I really love too. And I guess maybe there's some nostalgia in it for me.
Oh yeah. That's funny. That's on the wall at the house I'm at right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I spent a week. This was kind of when I came up here just to decide if I came up here to Fort Collins for a week and just to decide if I was going to stay here. And that's kind of a portrait of the tree in my friend's backyard with a big old tire swing. My friend Garen. Yeah. And it's funny because now this tree is reoccurring in a lot of the paintings. And the clouds, I really observe them up here. There's a lot more sky to look at in Fort Collins. So yeah, it was just kind of a backdrop, but that tree is kind of a character now. I made kind of a beautiful thing look lonely. I thought it was before the bloom. So I kind of stared at it for a week. So I was like, I better just paint this thing. Funny thing is I didn't have anything to paint it on. And I looked up at my friend Garen's wall and I was like, that picture's lousy. And he was in LA. So I sent him a picture. I was like, can I ruin this for you? And he was like, absolutely. And that's what he came home to. So
that's awesome.
And this one's entitled, There's a Woodpecker and Old Man Dom's. Is that how you pronounce the last name? Dom?
Yeah.
Dom's tree.
Yeah, there's a woodpecker up there. And I spent the week trying to find it. And I never saw it once, but I could hear it plenty. And it's kind of a reference. He's an old friend. We've known each other since we were teenagers pretty much. And it's just kind of a reference to him.
You mentioned the clouds in northern Colorado. And one thing that we have that's very interesting from the northern part of the state to the southern part of the state, the clouds differ in their structure and the way they form up.
Definitely. Yeah. I've noted they're very flat on the bottom here because we're very close to the foothills. So and it's very windy here too. So it just shears off the bottom of them. So I'm kind of stuck. I was telling a friend, I got to learn how to paint a different kind of cloud, man. Cause yeah, it's pretty much, I've been fascinated. Like the wind's a character up here in a movie. It's always there. There's always a breeze here, it seems. And it just shears the bottom of those clouds right off. I kind of found it fascinating, the shadows that happen.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man.
Thank you.
So the other thing that I see in a lot of these is chickens and rabbits. What's the fascination with those two animals?
The chicken thing, I'm not quite sure. I just think they're the silliest animal. And a lot in Denver, they passed an ordinance where you could have up to a certain amount of chickens in your backyard. And I just thought that was just such a funny thing to happen in an urban area. So yeah, a lot of people had chickens around me. I did have a girlfriend too at one point that was a pet sitter, and she called me kind of freaking out, and I had to go over to her client's house and help her run down the chicken and put it back in the coop. I just thought it was a funny thing to happen in the middle of a city. But the rabbits, that's just kind of a thing. Like they've always been around me ever since I was a kid. I can remember rabbits everywhere. And in Denver, especially over by South Broadway, in the springtime, there were just tons of rabbits. And I had an old basset hound and he loved chasing them. But yeah, it's just kind of a character that's always been around, I think. I'm either following them or they're following me. I'm not quite sure.
Well, like you, I love chickens. I think they're interesting animals. They're goofy and just strange, right?
Uh-huh.
And so that resonates with me as well.
And in that painting too, there's that tree again from the backyard in the background there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this particular one that we're looking at is called The Time Is Meow. And you actually have a cat in this one.
Yeah, that's my roommate's old cat. He was a character. So I kind of just incorporate. He was an everyday guy. He used to hang out with me for hours while I painted and drew. So I figured I'd pay him some homage in a piece.
So you have all this bright colored work, but then you have a series and it's called Colorvoido.
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 It's my take on I was trying to be clever, but it's colorful Colorado, you know? So I just decided to kind of take all of the color and pigment out of my work and just do black and white photographs pretty much and that's like kind of in they're all the photographs are taken in the middle of the process. So there's a lot of like the flowers and things in the foreground. I would draw them and then cut them out and then kind of place them on the canvas to decide where I was going to put them with kind of like that wheat paste kind of punk rock flyer kind of method. But yeah, I just thought it would be interesting to show people kind of these ideas. I was just snapping these pictures to remember where I left off for the next day or when I went to work in case the dog messed them up. I would know where I left off, but it kind of, and I did them in black and white on purpose just to just look at them more in a design aspect. But it kind of worked into a project where I kind of put them together, and my brother's putting out an issue, like a little art zine that's kind of like a little comic book of this series of stuff.
And talk about this particular one. It says, if you were a memory.
Oh yeah, I did this during the COVID lockdown. It's on a very old canvas that it's the background's a painting I probably did about 18 years ago, and I just had it around, and I just started putting stuff from old journals into it. My time in Miami and my grandmother's in that, and there's a drawing of actually my grandma and grandpa holding hands walking down the street. It's just kind of a memory scape, I guess. And that's kind of the black and white. I love how that just makes it kind of like a memory, you know, the high contrast. And yeah. I'm into like the like I said, the film, really into film and old black and whites. And I don't know, it's kind of my contribution or inspiration to that, you know?
Yeah, it's very intriguing. I love it, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do too. It's really neat.
These have all been taken over probably the last 8 years. So it's kind of a cool collection of ideas and that have come about over, probably about 8 years. So it's a nice way to share that with folks too.
Yeah. And all these will be included in this new zine that will be released on June 21st. Is that correct?
Yep. Issue 5. Yeah.
And for folks that are listening, you can get that issue off the website, the Walk Off Hot website. And where else can you physically buy them?
Kilgore Books in Denver, Mutiny Information Cafe on South Broadway, and Mutiny Information Cafe in Trinidad, as well as Quimby's in Chicago. And there's places that carry that sort of thing that my brother's kind of he's kind of the agent of it all. He kind of put this project together, and yeah, he's getting in quite a few retail stores in cities he's lived in, and through contacts he knew. But yeah, it's kind of gonna hopefully be around a little bit. So,
and you've had relatively decent success with putting out these zines.
The first 4 issues were my brothers, and yeah, they're slowly getting around. It's kind of like an analog, old school idea to put something in print, I suppose, and kind of shop it around like a little magazine. But yeah, it's we've had a lot of good feedback. Yeah.
And this new issue that's coming out in June, this is all just your work?
Yes. Each issue's by a different artist. Yeah. Then they get the whole issue. Yeah. In the future, we're going to start grabbing friends and colleagues that also do the same kind of thing and doing guest issues.
That's great.
The goal for these is to put out I'm going to put out 4 or 5 of them. And then eventually we want to put it into a nice book, all the volumes into one book down the road. So
fantastic. So the first 4 issues were all your brothers' stuff?
Yeah. And then the series of mine are starting now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after this issue, there'll be multiple other issues that are featuring your work?
Yeah. I think the next issue is going to be like a photo essay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Of my old Basset hound that passed away in about the last year of his life. That cat that was in that previous painting, Iro. Sam, my dog never had a buddy. So for the last year of their life, I documented their friendship from day one until the last day together in a black and white photograph. So we're going to put out kind of an issue of that, kind of photo essay. So that's the next idea.
That's cool.
Yeah. Still messing around with ideas for the other issues, but yeah, I think it'll be interesting when they're all in a volume, like one book. I think that'll be kind of an interesting goal we have for the future. We'll see.
And these sell for $6, it looks like.
Yeah.
Right on. You also had your own boutique for a while in Denver. Is that correct?
Yeah. My ex-girlfriend, Tina Jolliffe, she's an amazing clothing designer and always wanted her own boutique. And we were doing weekend shows and had a lot of people through the house doing fittings. And we decided to look for a place to just have a storefront for it all, get it out of the house, have a studio area. And with a couple $100, literally, we started this idea, and we carried a lot of other artist stuff, paintings, other designer stuff, local records, and carried local record companies and stuff. And that lasted about, I think, 3.5, 4 years with the name Fast Geek Boutique. It was a great experience. It was a niche idea. Having the opportunity to have a brick and mortar spot was great. It was a great opportunity. Not a money maker, but it was just a great idea. We started it with nothing pretty much, and to have something that long, and it was fun. We did a lot of fashion shows and concerts to kind of build up the business, and a lot of barbecues. It was kind of a grassroots effort, but she was a great partner. She lives in Chicago and still does it. You could find her stuff on her Insta. It's Idlewild's Designs, but yeah, we were great collaborators. It was a blast.
What did you learn from that experience, would you say?
Owning a business is round the clock. And it was a very niche idea for the time, I think, and took a lot of effort, a lot of responsibility, but it's completely worth it. And not every idea you have is going to go on for 20 years, It was hard to move on from the idea, but it was well worth it. Well worth it. We got really good at what we did. A lot of practice, a lot of hours in that the creative spot was really fun. And the friendships that came out of it were awesome. So
that was probably worth it right there, right? The connections that you made.
And lifelong friends over anything, It was a great experience to have.
it is difficult to walk away from something like that after you've been doing it for so long and you kind of got your routine down, right?
Yeah. But the good thing about it is after we moved on from the business, both of us just kept on collaborating and doing, to this day, we both were on the same path creatively. So it was all for a reason,
And that whole DIY thing, totally comes into play when you're trying to suss out the details of how to make something like that work, right?
Yeah, and we weren't business people, we had to learn how to keep books and we had to learn how to do it all. So very well worth it, I think. The business part of it's kind of cramps your style creatively, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the most difficult thing for an artist is the business side of things, right?
Yeah, and it gets exhausting tooting your own horn,
Yeah.
It's like I don't know. It's kind of weird. Sometimes you don't want to you got to quit selling yourself at some points in the day, to kind of you got to always be in people's ear these days. So it's kind of, it's a daily thing.
It's hard to strike that balance, right? I mean, you have to almost be tooting your horn all the time, but at the same time, that's the way our world works now. And
it does. Yeah, it definitely does.
Some of the work that I see on Instagram and on your website is, kind of a little more straightforward. It's just beautiful paintings, especially the floral paintings. But some of it, obviously, and we talked about this already, that, there's something going on in there. And obviously you're allowing the viewer to take it in and come up with their own story. Do you see yourself as a storyteller?
To a certain point, I start the story. I like other people to finish it. That's part of the collaboration with the audience. So yeah, but I think I'm telling my story, definitely. When I lay them all out, or I go on my computer and look at the photographs, it's like this thing's there's a definite narrative going. I can't put any text to it very well, but yeah, it's there for sure. So yeah, I think so. I do like to write. It's not something I share a lot of, but yeah. So yeah, I think in a way I'm a storyteller.
Where does the filmmaking come into play in all of this? Because both you and your brother are filmmakers. You collaborate a lot. Talk a little bit about that.
That comes just from my fascination with photography, and quite simply, I always wanted to do film kind of things, but all of a sudden, all that stuff got cheap. I could buy a camera, like any camera I kind of wanted. After many of the cameras I would buy, video cameras or whatever, I would buy at thrift stores. So they're all kind of half broken and clunky. But then the new ones became pretty cheap. So yeah, that's kind of where that started. I always wanted, every kid wants to make his own movie kind of thing. And it was and being fascinated with photography and music videos, it was a way to work with bands. I did a lot of projecting my films, like random films, on a bunch of local bands in Denver. And I don't know, it was just a cool kind of layer. And that was a way to get people to kind of see it. So yeah, it was just another way to record memories, but in full action. Always been fascinated by that part of it. But yeah, comes from my love of film too.
When you work with your brother, a lot of times, or what you've sent me and what I've seen, is him with this spoken word, and then you're composing the music. When it comes to the filming of it, is it a true collaboration, or is one of you?
He shoots a lot of it. There's been times where we will do those, and I can't get specific of which ones, but I'll film it and he does the technicalities, like the post and the editing kind of stuff. A lot of the animation you see, like the stop animation, that'll be full on him. He's gotten real clever at his methods of doing that. But we kind of switch around roles to where our aim's going and who's going to be faster at what, or have more aptitude, I suppose. But he's a lot more technically minded as far as putting things, finished product out. So I leave that up to him. But as far as producing the music for him, it's always been just riffing. It's kind of riffage that turns into a composition. And he he kind of edits to it at that point. But a lot of times I'll get the poem that he's doing with the spoken word, with the music or the filming. I'll just get the words, and then I'll have to compose something around the words. So, or sometimes I'll give him the music and the film, and he just does something that's applicable to the content. So it's a lot of riffing, a lot of jazz going on.
Yeah.
The one I really liked is The Bully. That was the first one that Todd sent me and I watched, and man, I really like that. Really beatnik poetry kind of stuff. His writing is really well. He writes really well. I don't speak worth a shit, but he writes really well. And
he's been doing it for years. The spoken word stuff and self-publishing books. He's had a couple books on publishers, but yeah, that's kind of been his thing. But just recently, in the last like 5 years or so, he's gotten really into the visual stuff. So in a way, he's a literal storyteller.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's an interesting process to work with him on stuff, because it's kind of like backwards from the way I do it on a lot of stuff. So it kind of keeps the juices flowing, keeps me limber as a,
right.
You know, like you got to go and explore other things you're not comfortable with, I suppose, to see, you know.
But the music in it is great. His lyrics are wonderful and strange and beatniky, and you know, the subject matter of Denver, at least part of it, as a character. I think that is so cool.
Right.
Yeah, I really, really like that one a lot.
Yeah, I think that's the one that has the sorry, I think you dropped your dreams in part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of that was written years ago, but I think a lot of people have those sentiments that are leaving Denver, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very clever.
It is. And I got to say, I agree with Wes as far as The Bully. But all of the ones that you sent me links to, I thoroughly enjoyed.
Right on. Thank you.
You know, you guys had the whole package going on there, you know, from the music to the spoken word to the visuals. It's so well done. Your music is phenomenal.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I like I always like, it comes back to movies and film, like the scores to movies and film. I'm just always fascinated by it. And yeah, and I'm a big fan of jazz, punk rock, of course. I don't have the stamina to play that sort of music. I like the more peaceful, kind of like Sun Ra is a big influence on me. A lot of film score producers too, definitely too. So yeah, I like mimicking that sort of thing. But a lot of background that I like to study is like improv jazz mainly.
Yeah.
Do you play a variety of instruments?
Yeah, I play trumpet and guitar, a little bit of bass because I don't have much rhythm in me. But learning in the last few years, learning a lot of piano, because every note you need is right there in the world for compositionally. But yeah, I like to just kind of explore, pick up whatever's in front of me. My roommate he moved here from Portland back to Fort Collins. He brought a trombone with him. I'm going to definitely have to check that out. It's not going to be pretty, you know, it's not going to sound good, but that's part of the way I do stuff. Like, who knows, something's going to come out of it.
Right.
So, and I can always say I tried. So, but I want to learn that riff, wah, wah, the old like bomb the joke kind of sound. Like that's right now, that's where I'm at with my goals on the trombone. If I could learn that.
When you get that figured out, you need to record it and send it to us, because we've been wanting to incorporate stuff like that into the podcast. So
I would love to.
And we have plenty of those wah, wah, wah moments.
Yeah, I do as well. I have plenty of those on a minute-to-minute basis sometimes.
Oh, God.
How do you go about selling your art?
Mainly Instagram. At the moment, yeah, and gallery shows. I've done a bunch of those, and sometimes like markets, like Mutiny Information Cafe's got like their markets that they do, and they invite artists in to sell a bunch of stuff. But mainly, if you see it on Instagram or Facebook, just message me. It might be available, you know, and it might not. And yeah, I'll sell it to you. I like the freedom of that. You know, you just share something. If people like it, they like it. And if not, I put it on walkoffhot.com. I have a whole collection on there. That's a that's a great place to, we're going to start updating the walk off hot faster than I update my Instagram. It's kind of backwards right now because the whole transition of where you want to share it and where you want people to go. We're kind of in that time right now, but yeah, walkoffhot.com is a great place to check it, or my Instagram for sure.
Okay.
But I want to start getting some shows going, seeking out some galleries, maybe with some portfolios here in the future. So who knows?
They're in the Fort Collins area, or?
Yeah. And I'd like to do a few out of state. I haven't done that in a long time. So yeah, I'd like to go somewhere to do it. It'd be fun.
Where does an original Vincent Cheap start at, and what does it go up to in price?
It's kind of like, I sell a lot of those. I like a 16 by 20 for 100, 150. If it's in a gallery, $300-400. I got this brand I call Vincent Cheap. So I'm like, it kind of pigeonholed you, man, but I like to have I do all these 5x7 stretched canvases where I sell them for 20, 25 a piece. So, and I don't sell prints. I like selling originals. So I decided just to have, and that's part of making so many at a time, is you always get an original for around relatively inexpensive.
Yeah, that's totally accessible.
I like to have them accessible to people that love art and want art. And if they can afford $50, they'll get a good piece of art that they like, because I feel as though people choose me, I don't choose them. And for people that choose to have my stuff on the wall in their where they live, it's an honor. So yeah, I like to keep it very reasonable for people, because most art lovers are not very extravagant. I've noticed people that truly love art, those are the people I want to have it. So
I love that philosophy, and I think that's incredibly admirable, Yeah.
And I figure too, it's like, I'd rather sell 10 paintings to make $1,000 than one painting to make that $1,000, because it makes you better as an artist. I think. Yeah. It keeps me moving. It keeps me out there. It keeps my ideas evolving. And I would get lazy if I was making what I wanted for it. I think that's just how the world kind of works.
What do you do when you get a big payday? When you sell a bunch of art, or you sell a larger piece for a significant amount of money?
I save it. I buy supplies and then I save it.
Do you have a certain percentage that you put aside?
No, I try to save everything that I make, because down the road, I know that I'm going to need it. It's like buying time. If I want a month off to paint from a job or anything, it's like it's like having a week where I can paint or come up with new ideas or put myself in a different environment. But there's not much celebrating that goes on. I kind of feel as though I need to get back to work, because it's like a moving on thing. There's something about when I feel comfortable, I don't think I'm moving. So a lot of times I'll just get right back to work. The last couple art shows I had, I went home and drew and painted afterward, because it's pretty encouraging when people show up and check you out. So it's like, well, I got, I'm going to make 10 more for these people I got to share this stuff with. I'm going to make 10 more. So it's encouraging. Awesome. Yeah, it's very encouraging. And time's important, I think.
Absolutely.
Do you ever worry about all of a sudden just running out of ideas and getting stuck? Or are you confident that these juices just will continue to flow?
I definitely get, like, I move in the moving process. I packed my house up and everything, and I took a good 4 or 5 weeks off, and it was kind of hard getting back into it. So I think definitely, like I said, I don't think I'm a natural, but it's hard to be sensitive to ideas when life it's getting crazy. So there's those kind of things where you're like, I got nothing. But I've learned to, like, get out of that rut, is just to go explore, go to the library, grab the camera, go take 200 pictures, try to see things in another way.
Yeah.
So in that fact, if I'm stumped on painting or I'm not motivated, there's all this other stuff, I'll grab a guitar, or I'll grab the camera or, yeah.
And then creativity builds more creativity, correct? In your view?
Yeah. Like 5 years ago, I was totally stumped creatively, didn't want to paint, not motivated. So I taught myself how to record music at home with the computer. And then I learned how to make beats. I like hip hop a lot. I was like, I'm going to learn what to do what they do. But it kind of motivated me to get back in the art because I started seeing things in all these different layers. And so, yeah, that's kind of, if I get bored, I have to do something else. But it has to be like, I can't just sit and stare at a wall.
Right.
Or go read a book. I don't feel much peace in that. You know, I have to keep going in a different way.
Yeah.
It's like a nervous twitch. I've always thought of it that way. It's like, man, just calm down. But I don't know. It's kind of, I feel blessed that I have the time and all the, sometimes I see the benefits of the effort and I realize in the end, it's kind of like, I like sharing it and stuff, but as an artist, you do it for yourself. It sounds weird, but you just don't do it to get pats on the back at a certain point,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a humbling process. I think I like it. It knocks you down a couple notches every once in a while. And that's the good part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what other challenges have you faced as an artist?
I don't know. It's always just been such a great place for me. I think it's when it's a challenge for me is when I'm being too ambitious or I'm playing outside my chops, so to speak. I think commissions are a challenge, but you learn a lot while working with clients. I've really liked that's people that pick your style to do their ideas in I think it's an honor, but that's a challenge. But it's getting over fear though. That, as an artist, that's probably a challenge, is getting over the fear of new ideas. And especially when you're working with a client, you're like, oh man, I've ruined your idea. What do you think? But I think the challenge is staying within your means. It's staying humble, I guess, and getting over fear. That's challenging, I think.
So what's your typical process with commissions?
A lot of people they'll get a hold of me and they'll check out my stuff for quite a while and they like my style, the way what they're seeing and the colors and stuff. And they'll get a hold of me and I'll just tell them, send me photographs and references. And if like a couple paragraphs of a description, and then I tell them I'll draw it up and I have them pick a palette. After they see, I make up about 4 or 5 mock sketches of it, and then they grab a palette of colors they want or stuff they don't want in the painting, and we go from there. It's a pretty cool It's a lot more relaxing sometimes than I let on, but that's pretty much the process. But I can't go out of my style, so and I can't go out of my talent, I suppose, the purview of what I can do. So if I can't do it, I've always passed it along to other folks.
Yeah.
Has that happened very often?
Oh yeah, totally. All the time. There's just stuff I'm like, I don't know if I can do that, but this guy can, and I'll link them up. It's kind of cool to be in a community where you can make someone's idea still happen, even though it's not you actually doing it. But yeah, that happens quite a lot, I think.
Did it take you a while to get to that point where you would turn stuff down because you thought, I need to stay in my lane. I don't really, this isn't my thing.
A lot of that. That's like kind of that fear, the challenge of the fear. Sometimes you just got to get over it and be like, dude, that's a great idea. You should just do it. Like get over your lack of skills or whatever's going on in your mind as far as that, and just getting it over with, and trust in the client too, because their ideas are sometimes like really good at far beyond anything I would come up with to paint. So it's definitely a learning process.
Is it comparable in price to what you paint normally, or do you charge more?
No, I keep it within around the same range. I'm kind of splitting it with them. the collaborations, the ideas and the vision is theirs. I'm just kind of the conduit. So it's fun for people that don't even know what the process of a commission is, to have an artist kind of do their ideas. I want it to be comfortable and kind of within the means,
I think it's amazing that you do that. And like I said, admirable. I think your art is spectacular, Vincent.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Hands down. I think you should probably charge more.
Down the road, maybe.
I appreciate your philosophy and your and the fire that you have for it.
Mm-hmm.
I really do.
There's something about wanting to be when you're younger, be an artist of the people. It's kind of like the romance of being an artist in America. I think is like not being in the ivory tower, being on the street with like real people. Yeah. I think the people that love it are a lot more interesting than the people that can afford illustrious art.
Mm.
That's kind of the way I think. And it's kind of like a punk rock ethos,
Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
Like you learn about bands like Fugazi that really had like ethics and morals. They wouldn't charge over a certain amount for the tickets. You grew up with these kind of stories and characters, and you're just like, man, you know what? It's kind of a good idea because people still listen to Fugazi all the time. They're still very valid,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just kind of like the heroes you grow up admiring in a way. Sometimes you pick the good ones. So it's kind of, and Star Wars movies, the whole morals that come out of those movies, I suppose, come out in it a little bit. But yeah.
You've had the opportunity to do some album art. Talk a little bit about that and who you've done art for.
Oh yeah, I've done album art for Armchair Martian, a local band in Denver called Old Hickory. I've done 2 7-inches that my brother did. He recorded some spoken word pieces with Lucero. I did both of those 7-inch covers, and I've done a bunch of them. I can't really name up all of them, but those I think are the most recent kind of, and the Lucero a little older, but yeah, some of the more recent.
How did that collaboration come about? Obviously, you have the connection to your brother, but with the band,
right. I think my brother just befriended those guys. I think he was on the road touring with a band called Drag the River, and I think he just hit it off with the fellas, and they thought it was a good idea. They just did the music behind it, and Chuck flew down there and recorded in their rehearsal spot and with them, and yeah, had it pressed to a 7-inch. I thought it was kind of clever for a spoken word poet to be putting out 7-inch records like a punk rock band. I thought that was kind of clever, but yeah, it was a good project. It was fun. I just kind of like went with what I felt that the recording kind of sounded like, and I did both the covers. So a lot of the bands and people I've worked with, they kind of know what I do. So they let me kind of go where I want with stuff, which is pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, most definitely.
A lot of freedom to kind of explore their music. It's kind of a good way. It feels like you're part of the band, and you're kind of creating that aesthetic for them. So it's a fun process. When you're a kid, you're flipping through your parents' albums and you're like, how does this stuff end up on that? And to be part of that process finally in life is kind of a cool thing.
It's a huge compliment too for people to like your work so much that they want to put it on their album cover, right?
Definitely. Yeah. Because that's the first thing you see. It's kind of it's an honor for sure.
Well, and I can tell you, I've bought albums back in the day based on that work, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I've done the same. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Who would you say is your best support?
Friends and family. Yeah, I got a lot of really awesome people around me. So I wouldn't say from one particular spot. It's nice to be recognized by your tribe of kind of what you do. It's fun. And I've always been surrounded by such creative people that we're always just kind of support. That's just what comes by being friends with people that make stuff and make stuff happen. Is a lot of support. A lot of honesty too. Can't say it's all positive, but it's nice.
obviously your friends collect you, but do you have other people that are collectors of yours?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mail quite a few all over the place. So yeah, there's people that have upwards of 20 of my pieces. I know throughout the years, and there's people that are just getting started too, that get a hold of me when they see something. So it's kind of cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah. It's nice.
It is nice to see your paintings hanging, your artwork hanging on other people's walls, that they've been there all the time that you've been gone from Fort Collins, and here you come back and there they are.
Yep, definitely.
What books and magazines do you like to read?
I like reading a lot of Hunter S. Thompson. He's like just a journeyman. I really, and the count that I found out he was a sports writer after I'd read his novels and things, and I've gone back and read a lot of his coverage on baseball and such. But really with magazines and anything like that, I just, whatever's around, I just I form my own opinions through a lot of and learn, just soaking it all in. Kind of like the guy that just picks up the whole stack at the dentist's office, of magazines, and sits there and thumbs. That's kind of, I scan a lot of things, but nothing very like one or two things in particular. Yeah.
Anything that you have coming up that you want to promote outside of the zines that are released on June 21st? Any shows or anything like that?
Yeah, at the moment, not a whole lot. As far as that goes, just getting settled back into everything up here in Fort Collins. But at the moment, that Walk Off Hot website and the Colorvoido, the issue 5, that's pretty much what I have on deck right now. Just kind of promoting that, and sending it around for people to check out. So yeah, at the moment and other than that, just every couple of days I'll have a new something probably posted, or the process of what I'm doing. I kind of like to do in the progress photos, from the drawing to the finished piece. I like sharing that kind of stuff. But other than that, I'm just trying to just work on it and enjoy it, and kind of just share it with people, see what they think.
What are you excited about with the work right at the moment?
Just the kind of not overdoing it, just knowing when to call it when it's done. And usually I have a bad habit of overworking stuff, and that's always been kind of like, you just went too far, man. You just should have eased up on the gas on that one. That's kind of what I'm kind of really enjoying, figuring out when it's done, when the song's over, man. I call it a lot of time, that song Frankenstein, it could go on forever.
I don't know if I know that one. Who's it by?
From the 70s. Edgar Winter.
Yeah. It could go on for 13 minutes if you want to, but sometimes they end the song and it went in the perfect spot. And that's kind of the way, like with my work, I got to do. So that's part of what I'm working on now. Just kind of, and I'm enjoying seeing it when I the next day, I give it a couple of days before I stare at them, and I'm kind of liking that. So.
Have you ever gone back into somebody's house that you sold a painting to and looked at it and thought, oh, I wish I could do this to it? I wish I could add this. Never do that?
Not really. Nah, because it's kind of in the, I know what the other 5 or 6 looked like that, maybe around that I can remember around the period. So yeah, I kind of see it as a stepping stone a little bit. Yeah, can't go back. It's a time and a space kind of thing. Can't really go back 10 years and reflect what's going now with it. I don't think. It's hard to rework the story like that. Yeah.
The reason I asked you that question is we had an artist on a little while ago, and his dad is an artist as well. And he told a story about going to a dinner party, and one of his pieces was hanging in this house where he was at. And I think it was a Sharpie he took out of his pocket and said, you know what? I just want to add this element.
Hey, man. Yeah.
I thought that was pretty amusing.
That's right.
You have a bad habit of wanting to continue to work on stuff until you've overworked it. How do you decide when it's done?
When I start drawing a bunch on it, fixing lines, making sure lines are tight on the draw, or there's a fine line of where it can go the way you want, and then you just kind of do something that just goes too far, where you're like, that doesn't look right now. So yeah, it's really hard to say. It's kind of just a hunch, I think.
There was this guy that I went to photo school with. He always said that if you tickle something long enough, it'll tickle you back.
Right.
In other words, don't mess with it too long, because
right,
it'll come back to get you at some point.
I think if I'm working on something a little too long, then I have more going, so I could just move on. That's like I don't have to wait to like just go ruin another one, I suppose, because it's right there. So.
Hey, Wes, you got anything else you want to ask?
Yeah, one more question. It's kind of an off the wall question. So, Basquiat, what do you think? Mm-hmm. Where's his place in art histoy? Is he as good as you think? Go ahead.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's he got to. I've always, just when I was younger, I always just considered him like to be painting subconsciously. I think he brings in a lot. He's like the Velvet Underground, when that first record came out, there's like hundreds of people went that day and bought a guitar because it sounded like music they could play. I think his paintings are a lot like that. He's very popular now. For years, it was kind of lost. Like Julian Schnabel made the world see it. He kind of was the guy that I was like, oh, that guy rips, man. And I went and read books about him and stuff. But I think so. Yeah. I think so. Yeah, it was very brief, but who knows what would have happened, if he would have lived to old, been like older, but I don't know. I think he's important to our to the whole story. Definitely very important.
Yeah. One of the artists we talked to said he was probably the most important artist of the 20th century.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Very accessible, and the story and his personality and the kind of like his cause was, I think, immensely important. I think it was important that he was there.
Yeah.
And he's still here. I think I think people need to know his story.
What is your measure of success?
Happiness, being thankful every day for what I have. It's a good perspective I've had for a few years. It's not that I have to go do things. It's that I get to go do things. And being where you want to be, it's important. And seeing what's going on around you, it's really intriguing. Yeah. And
last question that I'll ask you is, for somebody that's just starting out on this path of being an artist, what kind of advice would you give them?
Do it all the time. Practice, cultivate ideas, because they all matter. Eventually it'll work out. You got to write it all down so you remember too, before you get too old.
There you go.
Yeah.
Man, Vincent, it's been so nice to spend time with you.
Right on. I really appreciate you guys.
I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation and your insight and talking about the work. And I really appreciate the time that you spent with us. You could have been working right now, but you chose to.
Oh, I enjoy myself doing this stuff. I love it. It's like old school radio. I love it.
Well, right on, man. I thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to seeing your stuff in person. I didn't get to see the Three Kings show because I live way up in South Dakota, but I'll definitely make an effort to come out and see your stuff, man.
Cool. You'll be the first to know. Thank you.
All right.
Excellent.
Again, check out the website. It's walkoffhot.com. You can see both Vincent's artwork and his brother Charly's work. You can order the zine, issue number 5, that will be released June 21st. Vincent, you want to tell us where you can get those again?
Oh, at Kilgore Books and Mutiny Information Cafe in Denver and Trinidad at the moment. Yes.
Fantastic. And don't forget to check out Vincent's Instagram at Vincent Cheap. For the Tenant Podcast, I'm Todd Pearson.
And I'm Wes Brown.
Have a great week.